Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, in this lecture we will discuss about vernacular case examples. So we will see the examples of like a vernacular design from the architecture, like how these designs have evolved over time and how they have been addressing the actually climate related responses, as far as like a building is concerned, a habitation unit is concerned, in like a different geographical and climatic locations. So if you see like according to the Foster, what is vernacular? So vernacular architecture can typically be understood to be a region's indigenous local building customs, materially and the milieu in which it arises. Vernacular architecture is an architectural style that is designed based on local needs, availability of construction materials, and reflecting local traditions. At least originally, vernacular architecture did not use formally schooled architects but relied on the design skills and traditions of local builders. So you can see like a vernacular architecture is part of a local culture. A culture in an overall sense involves like art, music, food habits, clothing, even architecture. So this vernacular architecture has a lot to do with that particular place, and it evolves while passing through like generations and generations, like how the people of that place or that community find resources in the vicinity, in the like a local surrounding areas, whatever they could source in a more like a natural way, more like a subtle way, without actually bringing stuff from like a far away places, or very distant like a places, or maybe manufactured things like from like a factories and manufacturing units, what we are actually getting like a supplies from these days. So not actually using those kind of materials, but using very raw, very local, very authentic natural materials such as like adobe, thatch, bamboo, stone, whatever they could found in that place. And that is why you will see the characteristic of the vernacular architecture and the features of these vernacular architectures, they actually change from place to place because they are very rooted to that particular place. So this is the one region. So why this is important to understand over here in this actually globalized form of architecture which is evolving in the recent years, in these days, so there is a trend that the buildings, for irrespective of the location of that particular slide, they're all almost the same because they're utilizing the same construction materials, and there is one actually a global structural system which has evolved, so irrespective of the place, it is all the same everywhere, and irrespective of like a distance, we are able to still like a source and get those materials which are manufactured from like a very distant places within the country or even like outside the country. So like in this globalization scenario, this vernacularity of the architecture is getting lost. So well, there are several advantages to this, actually going for this globalized way of like developing and designing architecture, but there are some disadvantages also. Well, disadvantages are the biggest ones what we can see, like we are not utilizing the natural elements and natural things which are available in the surrounding, but we are relying on the electricity based actually gadgets, tools, mechanical systems, to fulfill the comfortable actually requirements in any given building. For example, like temperature, humidity, wind, sound. So we are actually relying on mechanical methods of controlling these things irrespective of going along with the nature. So that is one of the reasons actually things are have actually changed in the recent times. So we will see some examples. There is one very famous crafts museum, so in New Delhi. So this museum has several artifacts of like a craft and all, but it uses, if you see the building itself, the premises of this craft museum itself, okay, this is made up, this is constructed in a very like a vernacular way. It appears like, yes, it's a piece from like a older time. It's a piece which belongs to like a maybe a local area, so it uses actually, you see these materials, these like a roofing materials, these walling like a these patterns which are drawn on the surface of this like a building, the stone which is usage, the other features, other decorative elements which it uses, they are all sourced actually from like a different places of India. And it actually as a one unit of one museum of like this kind of, it's like a unique kind. It represents actually several rich actually vernacular traditions and heritage, architectural heritage of like a different parts of the country at one place. So I would suggest you must take a visit whenever you are reaching like a city of the New Delhi, because you will get from like an architects or engineers and designers perspective, like how humane the space is, how humane the materials used in the buildings could be, and how humane the overall approach could be towards living in the sync with the nature. So that is actually idea which you will realize after looking at this building. So as you can see in this picture, it's a courtyard, it's a typical courtyard actually arrangement which is given over here. So this actually in this you can see like there is like a courtyard planned on the in the inner side of this like a building, and there are like a trees, and there is one actually tulsi plants also plant also planted over here, and the entrance actually door on the one side, and other like the rooms on the like sides, they have their own actually respective like doors, and the windows of these doors, they open inside the courtyard. They may be having like other windows also on the opposite side, who may be opening on the other side of the building. So this actually, if you see, it is nothing much, but it's a very subtle architectural system integrated over here of ventilation and shading from like a sun and rain. So why these covered pathways and these corridors? To protect from the like a direct sunlight and maybe direct rain. So it is very typical if you see like, so from where it could belong to, obviously this belongs to like most parts of the India, because India in general is like a warm and humid and subtropical actually country. So this is the actually characteristic of India as like a one geographical entity. And this is the one actually architectural system which follows in the like a length and breadth of India, starting from the like a northern Gangetic plains till the like a courtyard houses of like a Tamil Nadu and Kerala, even in the middle of the India, on the west side of the India, on the east side of the India. So we can say like this courtyard planning is a very typical actually a feature of vernacular architecture from India. Though there may be some further details which vary from region to region. So in this slide, if you see, this is a typical actually architectural piece from like a Himachal Pradesh. So it utilizes these stone blocks for creating the main wall, and on top of that there is like a wood or timber actually constructed this house, which utilizes again this pitched roofing over here with the tiles, in order to like slide over the snow which falls in the like a winter times. So this is a typical structure from like Himachal Pradesh. Similarly, you can see this building over here. It's a new adaptation of the older like a vernacular architectural system, utilizing a combination of the new with the older traditions. And here you can see these pitched roof, again for like the purpose of this draining of the like a water and snow, and you can see the jalis over here at the top of this building. So this is for mainly for actually enabling ventilation in the main part of this building over here, so that the warm air which rises within the space may actually continue its the movement from one side to the other side, and allowing the fresh air, allowing the cooler air to come inside and the stale air to go outside. Okay, some more examples you can see from across the world. These structures, if you see from like the whether we see it there like a geometrical form, or we see there like the material or the texture, or the appearance or the detailing, so they feel like they have evolved in that particular time. As you can see the on the first picture on the left side. Okay, so there is like a hilly area with the like a stone in abundance. So this actually structure uses stone. On top of that, it is layered with the like a mud, and it has like a thatched roofs, these conical roofs, to allow actually water to seep out easily. So you can see it follows the topography of the land also. Okay, there is no actually man-made cut made in the a foothill of this particular hill over here. But yeah, in the recent times it is a very rampant practice to cut the hills in like a L shape and clear out the land, okay, which leads to further a destabilization of the like a stone, on the upper sides, and as a resultant that there are several landslides activities, promoted by actually this human activity. So how beautifully this actually piece of architecture fits into this place. Okay, now, it looks like a piece from a fairyland or a wonderland, like how these architectural systems have evolved with the small detailings. You can see the bamboo and timber pieces are actually coming out. So these are the actually structural members used inside the actually houses to create a mezzanine floors, or even a roofings and other structures, and the roof supporting structures. And even you can see on the front surfaces of these walls there are some actually figurines which and some stucco actually work which talks about maybe it's a representation of that particular tribe, or maybe the social strata of it, or something, or maybe a name or something like that. So how beautifully it is integrated in the same material without actually bringing in other like a third material. Similarly, in the second picture you can see this also follows this stilt construction system, raising the entire habitation area, as high as 8 to 9 feet over here from the a ground floor, so from the ground surface. So it is very evident that there may be some actually climatic actually maybe impacts or something on this area, maybe flooding or maybe waterlogging at some point of the year. And to safeguard, or maybe even some regions, for example, a storage for the cattle, or maybe a shed for the cattle, or maybe keeping some other a utilitarian stuff on the ground level, or maybe this land falls in some maybe forest area, infesting a lot of with the reptiles and other such creatures, to allow them a free movement and safeguard actually the family quarters. This structure is actually stilted. So such examples we can find in plenty from our own northeast India, where some states, for example, like Meghalaya, Assam, and Nagaland, they use actually such a stilt structures, because Assam, you're mostly aware of these Kaziranga National Park. So if you go to that area, that actually area receives a huge amount of a flooding and waters from the river Brahmaputra for several months every year, almost at the time of the monsoons. So this actually kind of architecture allows water to flow naturally without causing the much damage to the structures, because these are the only columns which are coming in the way of the water, not the entire structure. Because if the entire structure comes, there will be a bigger and wider surface area resisting the water, thus the gush of the water. And water in the Brahmaputra flows in a very high quantity. Brahmaputra, you may be knowing, is the largest and biggest river in terms of carrying the volume of the water per second. So it creates a lot of havoc every year. So such kind of solutions are very rooted to that place, as you can see over here. These two structures from the right side, you can see they are this conical spherical, a conical spherical combination. They are created over here, and it's clearly visible on the rightmost side. This structure, this is the wind chamber actually. So obviously it is very evident that these two structures are from some dry arid area, from some part of the world. So we can easily guess through the features which are there in the structures, this is a thick walls, without any opening, so this must be from a very hot dry place, maybe some Gulf country or somewhere. So this is very evident. So I need not actually name the place, but you can easily, you should be able to guess from the features of it, from where this should belong to. So generally we can understand through this geographical actually such characteristics, such features which represent some responsiveness from through this design for that particular geographical area. So further down here you can see it's not just the building like a material, it's not just the form, size and scale, is the actually making it very 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 like a intrinsic to the overall like a value system and the society and the community life. So you can see some figurines also here, some you can see patterns, some drawings on the walls. So like what do they mean? It may actually vary from like a tribe to tribe. So these actually patterns, they belong to a particular tribe, and these the arrangements of these lines and the way they in the thicknesses what they adopt and the color combinations, actually what you are saying, it looks like a piece of like a cloth or something it's taken from, but not. This actually graphic may be representing a particular tribe, or maybe a social status of that particular family, or maybe their identification mark through which these any person from that tribe may easily decipher and understand like a which like a this structure, like a with whom with which person it belongs to, which family it belongs to. So it has actually such coded like a pieces of like a information also through this architecture. So that is why this architecture is very very rooted to the place, very very rooted to the community. The second picture you can see, it's not a piece of like a building, but it's a piece of like a human ingenuity and creation, where they have used actually these natural roots of like a certain like a creepers, and a very strong actually creepers who have like a very strength like in their like a members, like a tensile strength, they have used it to weave as a like a bridge, as a crossover, for this crossing this actually water stream which is flowing right here in the lower side you can see. And it's not just one level, it is like a two-tier actually root bridge, from the state of Meghalaya in northeast India. So this is a very very unique actually a system, like how nature can itself be used to maneuver without harming it. They could have used actually pieces of maybe timber over here, or maybe like a steel over here to erect maybe a foot-over bridge or something like that. But no, they have actually decided not to bring any other foreign material and utilize whatever they could, on that given place. So it's an excellent piece of actually human ingenuity and creativity, while maintaining the balance, while maintaining the actually coherence with the nature. So vernacular architecture represents that cohesiveness, that coherence, to go along with the nature, not against it. So that's the most important essence from this lecture I would like to deliver to you. So why vernacular architecture is important in the like a strategies for like a sustainable design and this course? Why? Because vernacular architecture gives us a plenty of like examples what to use and what not to use. So we can see like what kind of forms they have used, what kind of materials they have used, how they have maneuvered their design and construction in any given that location, and the resources which are available at that particular place. So it's a wonderful actually pieces of architecture to actually witness from across the world, and it opens our eyes, like we as like a trained architects and designers and engineers, how we are contributing by going against the nature. So the essence of this lecture is in this feeling to understand actually, going along with the nature. You see this third picture, see the roofing is looks like a piece of maybe a grassland, or maybe a stony actually area where some lichens and grasses have actually grown up, and this is precisely what it is. You are not wrong, you are absolutely right. This actually this roofing what you are seeing is a combination of like a thatch and straws, on which lichen and moths and these green stuff they have actually grown up, and this is what we were actually discussing in the chapter of like a urban heat island effect, UHIE, where the whole idea was to minimize the actually the heat quotient of that particular building, and in a whole the entire actually community in that neighborhood. So this is actually traditional way of utilizing this actually this green roofing structure, which is clearly seen over here. Okay, in some recent times, you may be you may have seen some like a keen architects and engineers. They have actually designed such structures which utilize Adobe based like a material like adobe itself is an excellent material which resist like the heat transfer, which resist even like the other forms of like radiation and things. It protects the interior from like outside. So you see this building on the like top right side. So this building doesn't utilizes actually concrete system, but it uses like a such like a bricks, and mostly it uses this natural materials. You can see over here these stone blocks, and even to create it's like these wall surfaces, and it is G+2 like a high structure which an adobe structure or a brick structure can easily withstand without any complication, and utilizes these screen, these jolly systems also to promote like a vegetation ventilation, and the passage of like a light in a like a controlled manner, to the like inside. These all of these actually images you see in the recent times, this building was actually constructed using the there's a courtyard system of like this vernacular architectural system which we discussed in the initial slides. So it utilizes the same philosophy over here of creating like a corridor and courtyards, inside, and the actually shaded actually portions where one can sit and relax in the like a hot and actually warm and humid actually atmosphere. So these kind of like buildings are also coming up in the recent times, but the number of these buildings are like very few, extremely like a rare actually somebody goes for like a such construction of like a systems. But we actually must promote, if not necessarily, if it is not possible to go with the pure adobe structures, but at least we can promote like an amalgamation of like a both like a philosophies of the like modern construction methods and the vernacular architectural systems. Well, vernacular architectural system has some like a challenges also, like it poses from like a time to time. So you can see like this figure over here on the top left first picture. If you see like how the like a earthquake kind of situation may impact actually such buildings, so this is one of the example. So this study is very important for us to understand and re-engineer our like a approach while designing like a building which utilizes a vernacular architectural system. So how we can strengthen the actually the walling, you can see over here on the first picture, first sketch, okay, on the left side. The second one with the actually example, with the real life a picture from like Nepal, you can see over here, and it happened in 2015 with the earthquake which happened at that time. So how the entire actually wall surface got detached, from the rest of the actually wall of the building. In the third picture you can see like how this stone masonry actually failed from like a one portion. So, and the last one, like how this rupture happened and how these actually cracks got developed at the corners of these openings of like windows and doors. So this is important for us to understand well. Vernacular architectural systems do not use actually metal or concrete as their primary material. Okay, so how these still can be reinforced, can be actually rectified for saving from like a failure in like such scenarios. Okay, some extreme examples of like a vernacular architectural system from across the world. You can Google these images. This picture looks like a piece of like a fancy, or maybe it looks like a maybe a extreme tourism, but it's actually, you are seeing, what you are seeing is a neighborhood, which exists on the like a water body. So these families, these people, these lady you're seeing over here, it's their like a daily activity to pass through this water which is flowing right beneath their houses. So they have actually learned to live along with the water. This is a picture from like a Philippines and a Vietnam area. So from there this picture was sourced, and it shows not humans not just can live on the like a ground itself, but they can live in a, like a water also, but like up to certain extent, and how they can survive. So this water is not just it's not just providing them a shelter, but it offers them food also, it provides them some occupation also. So this water is actually very integrated with their everyday life. The next example is a very famous picture. You may have seen it. I won't name the country. You can search for it yourself, and you try deciphering the kind of architectural system, the vernacular architectural system. Actually, this country actually has is very rich in like a such presentation. So you can see this entire structure is built in like a mud walls, utilizing like a rafters of like a timber, and there are very small like openings with the thick walls. You can see over these the thickness of these walls on along the sides of these windows. Okay, so obviously this belongs to a very hot area, one of the hottest areas on the like a planet. Okay, so this country, this actually architecture belongs to that particular country, and economically also this country has not evolved so much, has not done like a much compared to the other countries who have developed very fast. So because economics also has a direct correlation with the evolution of like architecture and structures. So how, even like while being in like such a limitations of like a situation, how this place, how this this community has done wonderfully to evolve like such a like a pleasing architectural system is worth actually looking at. And it gives several like details like how people used to live. So another example you can see over here, it looks like a maybe a burrow kind of where the wasps and other like animals, or maybe small creatures and things would live. But this is not actually, it belongs to humans, our like a few generation like earlier like ancestors, they have lived in these actually structures where you can see a number of like opening. So this is carved. Actually, it's a rock cut architecture. Is an excellent piece of like a rock cut architecture, where the community has dug deeper within a bigger block of like stone, and they have created habitable spaces. Okay, moving on, you can see one arrangement over here in which it talks about having a courtyard in the like a center, and then other like a habitation like a spaces on the like a slides. So this is shown over here like a family belongs to like a music, and how they have created their like a chambers and their sides on the sides of this structure over here. So you can see a drum room on this side, singer sitting on this side, and maybe shrine room over here, some visitors over here, with the, and these are all spaces woven around this this courtyard, this central courtyard, and in section of you can see over here. So this utilizes, one can like create an like a ambience actually of like a living, as well as like a musical activities and other sorts of like activities also. So how architecture is rooted with the other like a value systems of our like the society also is very evident from this place. So this actually architecture shows gives us a glimpse of like that kind of like a uses. Well, this is a map, so this talks about links. So it's from like encyclopedia of vernacular architecture of the world. So this map actually has divided, the regions of the world, which have like a one similar kind of like a vernacular architectural system. So in the subcontinent of India, you can see over here, this falls under 1.6, 1.5, 1.7. So these are actually subtropical like a warm and humid areas, the arid areas, again like a forest like a subtropical area. So this is divided majorly into like, India is divided majorly into like a three parts, and this is very evident. One can actually understand if we study the regional vernacular architectural systems of India. And other countries also, you can see like how they are divided, and we can see the details over here. So this actually map is sourced from like that encyclopedia, which gives beautiful examples of architectural system from these many like vernacular actually divisions of the world. Here another example which I have shown earlier. You see like how beautifully they have used these a log of wood to create like a steps, kind of a ladder, to rise from these waters and reach the houses on the top. So this building actually cannot be understood outside their cultural as well as their environmental context, a fact which raises the issue of the who of the vernacular architecture. So you can see over here, a building is very rooted, with the like a environment of course and the context, and is very rooted with the culture also. The culture actually is the driving force, which gives the details and the other features of like any architectural system. In the next slide, here you can see this is an example actually taken from state of in Rajasthan in India, and this particular place is known as like a Chittorgarh fort. You may be aware of, or you may have seen actually this stamp. This is actually stamp in the commemoration of the victory, and you see this fort over here. It's sitting on the top of a hill. Okay, and it has this amazing actually this water pond also over here, which actually replenishes from the water received from the in the monsoon months, in the rainy seasons, and it stores it for the utilization over here. And you can see like a temple is here, and some more like a quarters are here created at the surface level of the water for like a bathing and other activities for like a sourcing water. You can see the steps are going down from here. Okay, and there is an arrangement to actually have this walling system. So this is an actually amazing piece of architecture. You can see on the fort construction from these like ancient times. So you see the cross section of wall is almost visible over here, like how this wall is working as a like a retaining structure, and it's holding water without leakage or without any like a problem for like a several centuries now. So it's an amazing piece of like vernacular actually system, without utilizing the harsher materials and harsher techniques and other things. So this is like a very unique architectural Rajputana architectural actually system from this place. You can see and another actually piece of like a wonderful like architecture is these step wells. You may have seen some images, or you may have been to one of these actually baulis. They are called baulis. So they retain water for the like a summer months when Rajasthan experiences like a immense heat and arid actually climate. So in these months anybody can actually walk down. So these, see the arrangements of these scissor arrangement of these like steps, so that to actually create a deep trough over here which retains water without much actually evaporation and all. So this sometimes these actually wells are as deep as like 100 feet and even more. So there is one actually famous Bauli, this Adalaj in the next to like Ahmedabad city. So that is also one of the very famous examples. You can see like how the daily activities are being carried out by these women, and they are easily actually getting down, and they are able to fetch water from here. So Rajasthan have been traditionally like a very dry and arid state, and in the summer months it gets parched, and it faces like a severe scarcity of water. And even in that, like how the communities have evolved ways to deal with it, how they have evolved techniques to deal with it, and how they have developed this vernacular actually architectural system is one of the eye-opening actually images for like as far as the understanding is there of like a vernacular architectural systems. Okay, so now I would like to give you some examples in the like recent times, like how vernacularity was adopted by some very famous down-to-earth architects, who they have like a lived like in a very like a Gandhian philosophy, very down-to-earth person in their perspective in their daily life, and how that philosophy has reflected even in their like architectural systems. So this is you may be aware of this name, architect Laurie Baker. Well, he's no more now, but he has lived and he has kind of spent his life in like India, and all of his like architectural designs, they are very rooted to the place, very rooted to the traditions, how to deal with the sun, how to deal with the wind, how to deal with the like a humidity of that place, and they have actually evolved like a wonderful pieces of like a architecture. So you can see over here in this building, so this entire actually wall is made up of like a brick, and you can see over this brick is actually laid in a like a jali function, allowing actually wind, movement inside the quarters. And with the presence of this water body over here, certainly this water body is going to add to the actually the cool breeze, it's going to add to the, minimizing, lowering the temperature of the prevailing wind in these actually premise. Another picture from his one of the projects. So you can see like how he has created even ramps, using nothing much but these like a brick jali structures and a piece of like a concrete over here for this like creating these slabs. And even at the bottom you can see there are like a, brick pieces laid even in the flooring of this material over here. So you can see like how he has arranged the stone blocks in the like lower actually areas or even foundations to utilize the local resources and minimize the actually minimize the uses of like a factory made structures or a factory made actually building components. Some more examples of how wide span roofing also can be created out of like a such vernacular architectural systems, how the wider openings can be created by these arched brick actually formations, and how the shelves, and so see each and every detail, each and every component of this building. Even if you see this the treatment in the ceiling, it's not just a piece of like aesthetics, but it works as a like a structural member, giving strength to this entire actually roofing systems, and eventually working as like a smaller actually components and smaller actually beams constituting into the entire these actually roofing system. Further, you can see over here it's not just the brick only, like how the bamboo can be utilized for creating like a sunscreen of the building. So one beautiful example I found here with this picture. So how these windows and other like a building surfaces, which are tentatively exposed to the sun, they are covered in this like a bamboo actually pieces, and how these bamboo pieces are also arranged is very pleasing to look at, and they are actually becoming a part of this building in like a whole sense. This is not just like a external like a treatment or something given as like a fascia, but it works as a like a a integral member of this building. So this bamboo utilized even the formation of these like window systems over here, and the the other framing systems also over here, and this portion which is the completely in the like exposed brick, it appears to be like the staircase block, and that is why these bamboo is not covered on this, but it follows some like a brick jali structures over here to allow like a light and ventilation inside. This you may be like aware of. This is in the city of like Trivandrum in Kerala. Okay, so this is the Indian coffee house building, which is designed, which is existing in a like a busy actually a place in the city. Okay, and this is situated right next to maybe a movement area where is like a bus station or such like activities. And this building you can see is very unique. It's like in its approach, it appears like this is a building which is forming through like a helical actually structure. So this is how this was like designed and executed, and you see these triangular openings to allow a passage of light and ventilation in this like a humid place such as like a Trivandrum. Okay, further you see like how this bamboo is fashioned to create this staircase. So usually we see like ladders in bamboo, but this is a staircase you can see made out of like a bamboo. So a building made up of like a brick, mud treatment and bamboo. Well, if we compare it with the, like our LCA like exercise, so the sources of this material is the nature only, and very little like intervention, very little actually processing has actually done with this actually these materials, and once their lifetime is over, well, they are not going to lie down somewhere and waiting for like 1,000 years to decay and decompose. They can easily go back to nature and become part of some other thing again in a very like a short actually span of time. So this is the actually that factor of time in the like biodegradability, because in principle everything is biodegradable even if it takes like a 50,000 years to decompose and decay. But that time factor is very important, how long it's going to take to get like a decay and decompose without leaving any like a hazardous actually effluents. So this is one of the actually amazing pieces of like how a thought process can be utilized to create actually such structures. Another example I have taken of an architect from like Sri Lanka. He is an architect like Geoffrey Bawa. You may have heard his name or seen his like examples. So he's also a kind of a, we can say kind of a lorry baker of like Sri Lanka, who was very Gandhian in his approach, and he has utilized these vernacular architectural systems to create and design and execute several like marvelous structures, and which are still standing, and they are the actually landmark pieces of this philosophy, this sustainability, and they represent like such a like a philosophy. The picture you are seeing over here is the Parliament building of Sri Lanka, and you will be amazed to like see this building is made up of like a sustainable material, the natural materials. It doesn't utilizes extensively like a high impacting like materials or components in its building, and this is as big as like any like a parliament building of the like a world, and it houses actually the parliament of like a Sri Lanka, and it's sitting like next to like a water body. As you may be knowing, Sri Lanka is a very like a beautiful country. It has a very pleasing actually features, natural features, and it's a very scenic country. It has like a plenty of water in its like if you see this these are actually troughs and these lakes around this building. So it is setting it looks like this building actually floating on top of this lake, and he has utilized actually this traditional this pitched roofing system in executing this building. And you see like how the scale of these openings is getting reduced as we are going from ground level to up and up. So it's a very beautiful example of this system. Another example in the like a modern times is again like utilizing like these like a fence for like a creating like a controlling the sun, or even like a reducing the ambient temperature in the air, so that it works as a, like a buffer area, as a buffer zone to minimize and lower the temperature, and then again not going very high in terms of like a plinth, very close to the ground level outside, and with the plenty of like openings, with the plenty of like a grass and other vegetations in the surrounding. Definitely this place is going to be one of the most like ambient actually places for living and working. Some more examples like utilizing the vernacular architectural systems of like creating like courtyards and other like openings, other controlled like openings with the pergolas and other stuff. So you can see over here with the incorporation of even like a water in the interiors of this place. So this is not just for like a decoration, as I have stated before, but it works as like a functional piece of like an element, a natural element to bring down the temperatures, in the inner like quarters. Some more actually images of the same philosophy. Okay, in the recently constructed designs also, how the vernacular features can be utilized even with the like a with the, if you have the building is constructed with concrete and brick. Okay. This is actually a house, actually private property. You can see over here the name on top. So this was also designed by Geoffrey Bawa, and it sits right on top of this water body, and you see it looks like a actually image from like a wonderland. So how this place has actually utilizes these fins, these jollies, and with the like a glass covering, and at the same time it gives like a beautiful like a view of this like a beautiful place, this water body, this this lush green vegetation in the like a vicinity. So one of the actually most amazing actually pieces of architecture we can see from like the Sri Lanka, which are designed by Geoffrey Bawa. Okay, another the example I have taken, the last example in the this lecture is of like a Charles Correa. Well, Charles Correa, we cannot see him as a complete like vernacular like architectural vernacular architecture, but yes, his philosophy, his interpretation of his like architecture was very rooted with the vernacular actually architectural systems. And that is why I have actually chosen his works, and him to actually portray over here in this actually lecture. So you see this picture on the top, on the left side. This is a book cover of like a very famous book named like a Charles Correa by Kenneth Frampton. Okay, so we can see like how in his designs he has utilized the philosophy of these pergolas to create like a interesting interplay of shade and light in the interiors, and control the temperatures, control the actually glare. So this is this visual is from like Jawahar Kalakan from like Jaipur, which he has designed. So you can see in the like a this courtyard, this the steps are designed in the fashion of like the stepples which we saw from like Rajasthan. Okay, so in the same actually philosophy he has designed this courtyard utilizing the red sandstone of like Rajasthan. Some more examples you can see like a small thumbnails over here which he has designed over like the years. So several such examples you can see from here, like this is the Gandhi Museum from like Sabarmati ashram. So how he has designed the courtyards and how he has planted trees, what is the scale of it. So these are all actually beautiful examples of like adoption in the recent times. So we will see a grammar of like Charles Correa, like how he has followed this grammar was the philosophy. So you can see like on the how he has handled like a site plan. There are several examples given over here on this column. You can see starting from like like it has like a Hudco housing actually a plan. It has like a Malabar cement township, several like a ACC township. So how he has handled the site plan for like a planning of the like a housing and the row housing. Okay, so this is given over here, the kind of types what he has used in his like a designs over here in these like a projects. So the unit actually how habitations are detailed over here. You can see the very famous like a Bila housing at the bottom. In the next column you can see the unit actually modules, how he has designed these unit modules of these actually projects, and how these modules are actually in relationship with each other. What is the kind of staggering he has used, what is the kind of the arrangement he has utilized. Somewhere they are like at some angle, somewhere they are at sitting at the 90 degrees, somewhere they are like a little bit like a placed and creating like a interesting space or courtyard maybe in the front. So this is the kind of the arrangement he has played with to create actually interesting spaces. And in a bigger group, like how he has utilized these generational approach of the like a multiplication, how these entire units in a collective way they are going to behave like creating like a interesting like interactive spaces for this community, some working spaces, some spaces for like celebrations, festivals, etc. So and then the functions, like what are the functional areas of these units and where they are placed. So we can see like a very beautifully actually laid this by the actually assistant professor over here. He has actually beautifully laid this grammar of like a Charles Correa's designs. Okay, so in one of his very acclaimed projects, this is the city center project from the city of Kolkata. Okay, so this was designed by him. So you can see like how he has created brought those natural elements from the like vernacular architectural systems. How he has used wider like openings. How he has used pergolas and semi actually shaded areas here on the like in this part, and how the different activities they have actually he has colored in the different actually colors all together, very striking, very appealing, very strong colors. So this is one of the acclaimed projects of his design. And in the planning also, you can see how he has worked on the grid, and how he has actually kind of created this interplay of a different activities, how he has always kept kind of this courtyard actually planning and such actually philosophy in the center of his designs. And there is always a tree, a neem tree, banyan tree or people tree in the center of actually that courtyard, bringing in that the ancient actually philosophies of India, of this courtyard planning and this community actually gathering, along with the emphasized by these steps arrangements for a smaller performances and events and things like that. So this is one actually beautiful piece of composition you can see of a different elements, different actually functional units of this structure over here. Further, as I have stated earlier, this is the very famous actually a shot from the Jawahar Kala Kendra. So how he has actually created, you see this podium is working as this a performance center for the this group of artists, and the audience can sit on the surrounding on these steps, leisurely stretching to these grasslands, and enjoying a complete open view from the top. So this is the kind of a philosophy he has used. So this is overall actually model of this actually Jawahar Kala Kendra. You can see over here they created by this student. Okay, so you can see the philosophy, how he has created the openings, and in these squares also how he has created these openings, and he has created geometrical actually play depending upon the a mandala philosophy. So this is a beautiful actually example of vernacular architecture. Another landmark example how to create interesting interactive spaces is this actually project from Mumbai. So this stands out in this entire landscape as a unique actually architectural piece. And the kind of the philosophy this building has. So creating a very interesting mezzanine floors, promoting a exchange, promoting a connection, from one actually unit of this housing to the next unit. And that is how he has actually kind of interconnected the balconies of two to three different housing units at a one common actually space, which is double height over here. So one of the very unique approaches in his design. So this is some more detail of the same structure. And yeah, so this is in an overall sense, if you see, vernacular architecture offers actually connection with the place, connection with the culture, connection with the a climate, and that is actually that has been the actually driving actually force for a sustainable design. And this is how the communities have survived for thousands and thousands of years. And this is how they have lived along with the nature. The philosophy I discussed at the beginning of my this course, even before starting this lecture, was how the humans, how our ancestors, they have lived for thousands of years without getting actually in trouble what this modernity in the after in the post industrialized era has actually brought in. So this is the only actually example, if we see, living in the sync with the nature. And for that actually this vernacular architecture is the biggest example. Vernacular architecture is the actually solution for living actually healthy and nature integrated actually lives. So we must actually put vernacular architecture a strategic system in our understanding, in our philosophy, and wherever there is any need, so you must actually employ this philosophy to go in the sync with the nature. So with this I would like to bring end to this lecture. Thank you everyone.